PCN is brought to you in part by the following underwriters.
Welcome to this week's episode of PACTV Community News. We have a great show tonight with stories from your South Shore communities.
This week on PCN, we bring you to the Kingston Collection for some mad science and stop by Pembroke to learn about the soup connection.
We hear some local experts discuss the risk of Lyme disease and stop in with the Plymouth Rotarians to hear about their 75th anniversary.
PCN attends a mothball at the Pines Barrens, and we head to Healthy Appetites to learn about healthy hair.
Town Talk has Pembroke Town Administrator on the set, and we start tonight's show in Brewster Gardens. Downtown Plymouth is a great place to walk around and enjoy the sights. If you're looking to get some attention, there are enough passerbys on any given sunny summer day to give it to you. That's just what the Plymouth Friends of the Open Space did behind the Jenny Pond Gristmill to introduce the public to the Park Watch.
The Plymouth network of Open Space Friends rolled out the Park Watch report to the public recently and chose the cozy, scenic confines of Jenny Pond Park in downtown Plymouth to do so.
While this park is a little more luxurious than your average walk in the forest, it did serve its purpose in that it attracted plenty of foot traffic.
Who better to talk it up with the passersby than the lover of all things nature, Dory Stoley.
We chose Jenny Pond Park because it's a lovely natural location, lots of Plymouth residents use it, and because we've set up a bit of a challenge course for people to practice using Park Watch.
The obstacle course was comprised of several things you might come across in the forest which would be deemed worthy of reporting. Of course, the items were on a much smaller scale and more lighthearted than the actual thing, but the message was the same. Dory Stoley was there to explain what to do if you ever came across such things in the woods.
One of the great things about Park Watch is it's got, you can mark your location. If you have your smartphone with your location on, you can automatically have it record your location. That helps Department of Marine and Environmental Affairs personnel pinpoint exactly where they need to go to address the situation, saving them lots of time and, of course, saving lots of taxpayer dollars.
Once that information has been passed on, what happens next?
The information that you upload and report about will be reviewed by Plymouth employees such as our natural resources wardens, of which we have 2, and then they will decide what to do with that information. It may be something they want to act on quickly, like picking up a microwave in the woods, or it may be that it shows them places that need more enforcement activity, and additionally places that need more signage or education. People are really open about learning about Park Watch. I think people recognize that there can be issues within the parks, and they love the parks. They want to take care of them as we do. It's one of the reasons people move to Plymouth.
Reporting from the Jenny Gristmill in downtown Plymouth, Brian Sullivan, PACTV Community News.
With many of us struggling with the day-to-day realities of paying bills and putting food on the table, it's easy to forget that there are people with no food and no table to put it on. Daniel Vail, the founder of the Pembroke Soup Connection, didn't forget. Joanne Brown offered up her home, known as the Long Red House on Plain Street, and volunteers prepare food and sort clothing for the homeless on the South Shore. Brian Sullivan has brought us this wonderful story.
On any given Saturday, this is likely the scene that you'll see at this home in Pembroke. Volunteers preparing food, bagging groceries, and carrying bags and boxes for delivery to those in need.
3 days a week, volunteers come here to the Long Red House on Plain Street in Pembroke, putting together care packages of food and clothing for the Pembroke Soup Connection.
This philanthropical group started out as what was thought to be a one-time deal to help people in need over the winter holidays.
I'm part of a biker church up in Holbrook, Broken Chain Biker Church, and I became aware through those contacts of some people that were having a hard time putting some food on the table during the holidays. So I put a request out for people who could help me come up with meals. I'm thinking, one time for these people. They misunderstood and thought this was a regular thing that I was doing, and before I knew it, the donors got together and organized and said, okay, let's do this again and again. And I said, oops, but I guess we're here now.
Nearly 1 year in, the movement is showing no signs of slowing down. Joanne Brown provides the house as the headquarters, but none of this gets done without the helping hands of all of the volunteers.
We estimate about 3 tons leave this house every 3 days, and it goes to the various locations in Brockton. Of course, in order for those 3 tons to leave, it has to have come in, be sorted, labeled, and that's where all our volunteers come in. The community has just been so generous in their donations, but it's the volunteers of the Soup Connection that come in here and help me. I'm just one person. I certainly couldn't do it all.
Several months ago, Joanne Brown put a post on Facebook requesting a pair of sneakers, and since then, the clothing donations have snowballed. With each order of food and clothing that leave the Long Red House, Dan and Joanne are able to soak in the enormity of the endeavor they've undertaken.
Who knew that a girl that could make a pot of soup to give to Dan to feed the homeless and ask for a pair of size 13 sneakers on the internet, who knew that it could lead to all of this? I certainly didn't. And it's just, it's been an amazing journey, and I know that it's just begun. This
is probably the most important thing I've ever done in my life. I'll say no probably. It is the most important thing, meaningful thing I've ever done in my life.
In Pembroke, Brian Sullivan, PACTV Community News.
The Kingston Collection once again has brought some great summer kid fun to their center court. Mad Science visited, bringing not only science to all the visiting youth, but some mad fun as well. Beeson was there to show you this interesting company and fill you in on this fun story.
Mad Science was actually started by 2 brothers named Ron and Ariel Schlein. This is actually our 30th anniversary. They were from Montreal. They're Canadian brothers, and they were just science nerds. And they had, it was, I want to say, a paper route or something like that, and it was, and saved their money and bought a laser. And the local YMCA found out they had a laser, and they said, "Can you do something for my students?" And they put together a show, and then it took off from there. And then franchising happened, and then cruise lines, and this little company called NASA said, "We don't know how to do stuff for kids," so we developed a program in conjunction with NASA's the Langley Center for Distance Learning. They said, these guys know how to talk to kids.
When we heat that hot air balloon up, that air wants to expand. It becomes lower in pressure. And when it becomes lower in pressure, that's what makes it rise.
I am a mad scientist, and I want to get them to learn about science, but I want kids to learn about everything in general. I want them to want to read. I want them to want to write. I want them to just learn, because the more you know, it's just better for you. So when we go into schools, we want the kids to get amped up about science, and we can do that with some experiments with a bottle and an egg. And we can get kids chanting for an egg because of the science behind it, and it's all in how you present it. I like science, and I like presenting it to children and seeing them get that. And you're going, that was magic. No, that was science, and it's amazing what you can do with just a rudimentary knowledge of science. So nothing we do here is, for lack of a better term, rocket science. It's all very accessible, but it's trying to present it in a way that makes it exciting for kids, that they want to learn, that they want to know. We want to make it fun.
All I want is a little bit of smoke. And we're going to let that smoke build up a little bit. Can everybody see through the bottle? Can you see through it now?
What it really comes down to is how it's presented, and the looks on their faces when you do something really amazing. That's what keeps me going. It's making a connection. It's a rush doing these shows for kids. I love doing it.
Looks like a lot of fun and a great way to learn, too.
Yeah. And you know what? Those are popping up all over the place.
Are they?
More and more science-related or STEM-related programs and processes for kids to go through. And what's wonderful is they're so interactive.
Yeah, they are very much so.
The science of science.
Yeah. I love the saucer there.
Yes, the saucer was fun. And speaking of science, there's a science of ticks also.
Right, the science of ticks.
Here in New England, the summer months are really welcomed. We finally get a chance to get outside and not have to dress in all those layers. Maybe get out and do some yard work or hike some of the trails. The thing we often forget about when we're out enjoying ourselves is that there are ticks out there lurking in the high grass and the heavy brush. With the cases of Lyme disease on the rise in recent years, we thought we'd speak to a few professionals to give us some tips on prevention and awareness so we can continue to enjoy the rest of this summer tick-free.
Whether you're going for a hike in the woods or just doing some work in your yard, ticks are out there, and these little bloodsuckers from the arachnid family can give you Lyme disease, something that's been on the rise in recent years.
Of course, this doesn't mean you need to be terrified and hide out inside your house all summer. It just means you need to be aware of your surroundings and know what to do in the event that you get bitten by a tick. We spoke with a couple of experts in the field to give us the ins and outs of tick-borne disease.
First, we met up with Melissa Silverman, a registered nurse interning with the local Board of Health working with Duxbury.
We're trying to teach residents that we have to protect ourselves in our own backyard, and we can do that through numerous ways. The list can go on, but basics are, mowing your grass regularly, keeping it nice and short, maintaining all your plants, your vegetation, so it's not too high. And there's certain, of course, plants that we want people to learn that it might be better if you have a deer-resistant plant versus a not deer-resistant plant. Moving bird feeders away from your yard is huge because that can attract rodents and wood piles. We want that stacked neatly away from the home. The goal is to not attract these rodents that could be carrying these ticks.
As it turns out, the black-legged tick, or deer tick, doesn't naturally carry the Lyme disease pathogen from birth.
And during a tick's life stage, they are born free of disease pathogens. And through the ticks biting rodents or small mammals, they can acquire this pathogen through the bite of the infected mammal or animal. Through the course of the tick's life, they can now transmit that disease to another host, human or animal.
Next, we stopped over at South Shore Medical Center in Norwell to speak with Chief Clinical Officer Dr. Nalband about the symptoms.
The symptoms from Lyme disease are many and varied, and they can be rather nonspecific. They can be sort of a flu-like illness. You can have chills and a fever, headache, arthralgias or joint aches. So it can be rather nonspecific. The rash is the most specific thing. If you develop what's called erythema migrans, which is a red rash, it's sometimes described as a bullseye rash, but most of the time it isn't a bullseye. The bullseye meaning that there's some central clearing in the rash, but usually it's just a red rash. It can usually start out by being maybe a couple of inches in diameter, but it can be as much as 2 feet in diameter. It can be a huge red area, or you can get multiple areas as the disease becomes disseminated.
If after being outdoors you do end up with a tick bite, Dr. Nalband says if you get to it within 36 hours, it generally doesn't require any medical intervention. But in the end, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
The biggest thing, I think, is prevention, and I think that people awareness. I think you know that if you live in Massachusetts, you're in an endemic area, and I think that you need to take precautions when you're outside. Make sure that when you go inside, if you just wash off, if you make sure that you've examined yourself for any ticks and remove them, using DEET, at least 20%, wearing protective clothing, tucking in your pant legs into your socks, that kind of thing to prevent any ticks from getting on you. It's really about prevention. And then awareness. Once you have a bite or you have a tick, getting medical attention. If you go early and you can just get a single dose of doxycycline if you're in that window that I talked about where it's 36 to 72 hours, that will take care of the disease.
Melissa Silverman is hoping that awareness will lead to prevention.
I want them to get a knowledge base of the seriousness of ticks, how common ticks are in our area, and what personal protection measures people can start doing if they haven't already started doing it.
Hiking in the woods on the South Shore, I'm Brian Sullivan, PACTV Community News.
PCN recently stopped in with our local Plymouth area Rotarians to talk about their big anniversary. 75 years of charitable giving has come from this group, and this year they plan on a raffle to celebrate the milestone. We met with Plymouth Rotary's president and chair of the 75th Anniversary Committee to hear more about their work.
A few $1,000s in already. Again, to remind you, if we can try to get members.
Well, as we're celebrating our 75th anniversary of Plymouth Rotary, which started in February of 1940, our first president with John Brewer, and over the past 75 years, we've donated millions of dollars to the Plymouth community and to different civic organizations, the hospital, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, Little Leagues, all kinds of different organizations. I'm a past president of the club, 1999, 2000, and right now I'm the chairman of the 75th anniversary fundraiser raffle. And what I'm doing is spearheading with club members and through the community to try to raise $10,000 to donate back to the community.
Like all the presidents before me, I'm sure I feel extremely honored to be leading this club, and for it to be the 75th anniversary is an extra special honor for me, and we have a great group of members here who really deserve all the credit. Andrew is certainly one of our most valued members and one of our members with the most longevity. He's tireless in his efforts to not just promote Rotary, but to bring in charitable contributions that we can then distribute to the local community. He is a tremendous person who really has taken this upon himself to make this a very special 75th anniversary for the club, and given us an opportunity to have this raffle and to raise some money that we can again distribute to the local community.
So all the fundraising from the raffle goes to community projects for kids, and the different prizes will be allotted from money raised. If you're interested in buying tickets, you can either contact your favorite Rotary member, or you can go to our Rotary webpage, which is PlymouthRotary.com, and there'll be information how to do it. We will be at the Plymouth waterfront for the Chamber of Commerce Waterfront Festival and selling tickets there.
We really want to try to raise some money for some of the different local needs of the children in this area. Nothing specific has been earmarked towards for the charity, but again, anything that we do bring in for this event, we want to earmark for different charitable contributions that we can make to some of the local communities that support our children and that really need this money.
If you want to learn more about the raffle, please visit the Plymouth Rotary's website for more details.
Wonderful organization.
Terrific.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun, too.
Yep. They do so many things, and we are lucky enough to be involved with their Rotary auction every March.
That's true.
That they raise a tremendous amount of money and give it all back to the community.
They do. Right here on your local public access channel.
That's right. Covered here on PACTV Community. PACTV. Is it just a coincidence that the final night of International Moth Week was exactly 1 week before the first blue moon in 3 years? Probably. The folks at the Southeastern Mass Pine Barrens Alliance celebrated the final night of Moth Week in style with costumes, cake, and caterpillars. Confused? You won't be after you see our report from Brian Sullivan.
What better way to celebrate the culmination of National Moth Week than to have a moth ball? And that's just what they're doing here at the Pine Barren Alliance headquarters right along the Eel River in Plymouth.
As you make your way up this long, dusty gravel driveway off of Long Pond Road in Plymouth, you eventually reach the Southeastern Mass Pine Barrens Alliance headquarters, where on this night, kids and parents would do some learning, have some fun, and celebrate their inner moths. Before this night, I didn't know there was such a thing as an inner moth. But after being here for just a few short minutes, it didn't take too much to convince me.
Tonight is going to be full of fun, especially for children. We have a number of activities planned. We're going to have a face painting, so everyone who comes will end up looking like a moth. We are having children make their own wings, big giant wings, and then they can have a cocoon experience where they fold up those wings, they crawl into our box that's all soft and foamy and fuzzy, and they get covered up, and then they can emerge just right out of the box and open their wings, dry them off, and fly away.
For all the fun being had, there was still a serious message. There are 182 species of moths in the area that are endangered. Most people can't tell the difference between any of them, and Charles Heller hopes to change some minds.
For people to lump all moths together as being bad, eating their sweaters or wrecking their trees, we hope to single out a few species tonight that we can show people, teach people about these moths and how they fit into the ecology.
We actually got to see some of these moths before they became moths. This big green one is the Cecropia and was the toast of the party. They even made a cake celebrating it. This is the peppered moth. It camouflages itself to look like a twig. This one is the Abbot Sphinx, and this is the Nessus Sphinx. The camouflage, of course, is to protect it from predators, which more often than not are humans.
Light pollution is the #1 killer of moths. And turn off those dumb bug zappers. They don't really work on mosquitoes anyway, and the numbers of creatures they kill are they're really very destructive.
So, what's the final takeaway?
Before you squish, think.
Is that right?
Reporting from the Mothball in Plymouth, Brian Sullivan, PACTV Community News.
Our health and wellness segment brings us back to Healthy Appetites for information about hair.
Hi, I'm Jeff Hills. I'm the owner of Healthy Appetites. This is the PCN Health and Wellness segment. One of the things we talk about constantly in the store is hair loss and hair growth. I'm going to tell you the 2 things that we tell everybody to take if you're losing your hair. The first thing is biotin. Biotin is a B vitamin. It's a B vitamin that's essential to the production of the protein keratin. Keratin makes up 97% of your hair. Biotin is also important for cell growth. If you want to grow your hair, you're going to need to make new cells. The second thing we would tell you is silica. Now, silicon is the second most abundant substance on the planet. But it might not be that abundant in you if you're losing your hair. So you want to take silica. Silica is the form of silicon bound to oxygen. It's essential to the production of collagen. If you produce more collagen in your skin, it increases the blood flow to your hair and your nails, and you'll have better hair. It also influences positively the production of keratin. So you need that to build hair. Just as a side note, silica is also important for your veins, for your bones, and for your joints. Now, your skin is 75% collagen. Your veins are 40% collagen, and your joints are anywhere from 70 to 90% collagen, depending on whether you're talking about cartilage, tendons, or ligaments. So that's very, very important for your general health. So silica is a great thing to do, and biotin's a great thing for hair health. We get great feedback on that. Biotin, you would do 5,000 micrograms a day. You can do that up to twice a day. You can do as little as 1,000 micrograms. With silica, just follow the instructions on the bottle. There's a bunch of different types of silica. One that I like is choline stabilized orthosilic acid. That you do about 5 milligrams twice a day. And that's been shown clinically to help regrow hair and to help brittle nails. So, great way to go. I'm Jeff Hills. This has been the PCN Health and Wellness segment.
This week's Town Talk brings Pembroke Town Administrator Ed Thorne to our set. Welcome, Ed.
Julie, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure having you. It's summer, it's August, and we have a bunch of things to cover. A couple of weekend events that are going to be going on in Pembroke, some issues with the Silver Lake water supply and the little bit of a controversy that's going on about that, and an update on the solar landfill.
Well, let's start off with the fun stuff first.
Okay.
We have 2 weekend events coming up that are annual occurrences in town. One is the annual Arts Festival that will be held on the town green. Their festivities start this Friday, the 7th, and it runs through the weekend. The 8th and 9th are the full days of activities on the town green, and it embodies, you know, arts and crafts and some food and some musical talent.
Yeah, it's a great time.
Absolutely.
It's wonderful.
And then the following weekend is the annual event at the Town Landing. That's the annual Family Fun Day that occurs from around 11 to a.m. till about 2 p.m. And I think this year's theme is this place is a zoo. So I think all the lifeguards will be dressed up in
that's cool.
Costumes,
Yeah.
and so we're looking forward to having everybody out there. It's
Yeah.
usually a big event, and there's usually 100 or so people that
That's great.
come. So it's a great time.
And
so.
we'll pray for good weather.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
There's been a lot of chatter lately about the water supply in Pembroke from Silver Lake and its relationship with Brockton. Can you speak to what's going on with that?
Well, around the turn of the last century, around 1899, 1900, the folks in Pembroke decided, for whatever reason, that they would go ahead and work an agreement out with the city of Brockton to allow the use of Silver Lake, which is a huge lake in Pembroke, to use their water. And Brockton, that's about 90% of Brockton's water supply, and it's been going there for 115 years. In 1964, a little-known legislative act was passed that allowed Brockton to sell some of that water to the town of Whitman to the tune of $2 million a year. And a lot of people didn't take cognizance of it at the time. But now that water has become such a precious commodity in the area, that the Central Plymouth County Water District Commission, which was formed way back when, now has been reenacted, and now Representative Tom Coulter of Kingston and Representative Josh Cutler, that represents the town of Pembroke, now have taken an active role in it. The town of Pembroke has Bill Bolter as its official representative, and Dan Tribuco, another selectman, have really taken a leadership in holding Brockton accountable to a lot of things, and especially accounting for the water, some of the drainage that occurs, and also the fact that the city of Brockton can divert water from Furnace Pond, which is part of the interconnecting ponds that make up the water system in Pembroke, that could be diverted to Silver Lake. And so there's a lot of issues involved, and the Central Plymouth County Water District, say that 3 times in a row,
say fast.
has really taken a leadership role into protecting the water supply in Pembroke.
Okay, so it'll be more to follow on this whole fiscal matter that surrounds this.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because there's unhappiness about
there's a lot of
our
concern.
water being sold.
And that's an understatement.
And us not getting, any funds from that. So that will be continued.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
and finally, let's talk about the solar landfill and an update on that.
Yeah, last Monday night, the Board of Selectmen had voted to authorize the Chairman Arthur Boyle to sign an agreement with SunEdison to start the process of creating a solar farm on top of the Cap landfill on Hobbamuck Street. Even though that site is around 17 acres, the solar farm is going to take up about 12 acres and generate about 4.5 megawatts of electricity. Excellent. In which the town will purchase all of that.
Great.
And at a considerable savings.
Right.
And so we believe that the financial impact to the town will be almost around $200,000 a year in rent and payment in lieu of taxes, in addition to about $250,000 a year in energy savings.
Right.
So we're looking forward to getting that agreement reached with SunEdison. Some of it has to do with neat metering credits by the legislature, get that cap released. So we're looking forward to that project being completed.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
Oh, absolutely.
For everybody,
We've
for the environment, for us.
We've been working on this for at least a good year, and I know the energy, up a year previous to that.
Yeah. More to follow.
More to follow.
Okay. Thank you so much. It was great to have you here, as always.
Always great being on
PACTV Community News. Okay. Thank you for watching this week's show. Replay times are listed on our website, pactv.org, or you can catch us up on YouTube and search for the PACTV Community News channel. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter to receive previews and links to all of our stories. We'll be back next week for another edition of PACTV Community News. We'll see you then.